Hey there, sheepdogs. Welcome to the Sheepdogs Union. I saw a couple of news stories today that were questionable. So the first one was a story in the LA Times that's linked below. That was the title was the boring story of the boring truth about 3D printed guns is what it was. And like for 90% of the article I'm reading through, it's like pretty rational. Like, this technology isn't new. This doesn't really change the game any. These things have always been around. And gun control has failed. It's not working. Our approaches to gun control don't accomplish anything. And I'm like, I'm on board. And then the last paragraph, like, that's why we need national permit to purchase. Like, So this is a pattern of trying to rephrase and reframe gun control arguments in terms that sound more reasonable, that sound pro-gun even, and trying to use our arguments to further their agenda. So be warned about that. And just because somebody says something you agree with initially doesn't mean that what they're actually proposing at the end of the day is something that you want to be on board with. The second story, also linked below, is, I'm assuming Bloomberg's behind it, but I didn't read enough details to find out. But they are rebranding again and trying to make another push for safe storage requirements by this new family fire campaign. And look, safe storage is important. You should store your guns properly. And, it's tragic when people don't do that and there's accidents, but we can't have legislation to require it because, as I've mentioned many times in the past, safe storage laws are very counterproductive most of the time. So it's not, this is one of those things that if you're an anti-gun, you're like, oh, I've got a new idea. This is common ground. And they show up like they're going to change the conversation. It's like, no, we've been talking about that for years, and you can't legislate it because you're going to screw it up. And the people who are responsible enough to know that the legal requirements for safe storage are also generally responsible enough to lock their guns up so their kids don't get to them, or train their kids not to play with the guns. It's the people who are the problem is being created by people who aren't going to be influenced by the law, again, which is the whole issue with gun control in general, is that the problem is created by people who are not influenced by the law. So changing the law isn't going to help. So I guess be aware of this, try to have reasonable conversations, because that's, it's one of those things. It's like, we can have reasonable conversations. I want to have reasonable conversations. There's things that if it makes you feel better, fine. We can have that law. That we can't have that conversation, because as soon as we open our mouths with any level of common ground or agreement, they use that as an excuse to take ground and start banning things. And that's not okay. I'm not going to play. We can't, I want to play that. I want to, work together and find common ground. But if every inch that I give you take as an excuse to jump a mile, I'm not going to play that anymore. And that's precisely where we're at with gun laws in this country. Is every time we take a step forward towards, every time we give room for something that may or might be reasonable, at least it's not harmful, why not? If it makes you happy, sure. And that's immediately taken as grounds to go further. And so be aware that these things exist, and be prepared to have those reasonable conversations with people. And try don't give ground, but be courteous, give credence to their perspective without saying they're right. With that, hope you enjoyed it. Like, share, subscribe if you did, and I'll see you next time. And always forget. Always remember to be ready to be somebody else's miracle. So, see you later.